Cannibal Rat Apocalypse.
Commonwealth, Commonwealth, the former empire, now Commonwealth. Is it relevant? Probably not, but why not give this part a shot? Stay tuned, here comes Uncommonwealth, the podcast.
And we're live. Hang on. And we're live from virtual locations for the Uncommonwealth podcast.
There's been some exciting, if terrifying, news from down under. And I think it's actually very relevant to what might happen to us in Manhattan. The city of Sydney is bracing for a rat plague after COVID-19 has forced hungry rodents to turn to cannibalism. Because people have not been creating as much garbage as usual for the rats to feast on, they have turned to eating each other, and it's spilling out onto the streets, the bloodshed.
What? Jimmy's face while you are saying this is priceless.
I know people in Sydney. I'm now worried for their lives.
What's happening in New York, too, just so you know.
The Cannibal Rat Apocalypse is upon us.
So what are they doing exactly?
They're eating each other right now.
I'm okay if they're eating each other.
Well, no, but because all the restaurants and offices have been closed, they've been driven into homes. They're coming for people in their homes as opposed to, waiting outside the Burger King.
Remember the pizza rat?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the next one is going to be a baby rat. It's not going to be pizza. It's going to be human baby rat. Just dragging a baby out of its crib.
It's not as cute.
They're cannibalizing each other. That means that, the ones that are left, they're going to be the strongest.
The alpha rats.
Alpha rat. There's definitely a couple of alpha rats that live on my block.
I wonder if they're teaching themselves jujitsu as well. They're going to be like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Rats.
There is Splinter. You could have gone straight to Splinter.
I could have gone straight to Splinter, but I wanted to know to see if you knew the name.
Mate, Ninja Turtles. How would I not know?
I know we were talking disparagingly about cats, but maybe it's time for everyone to get one.
Would you cats eat rats, or do they eat mice, or is it the same thing?
I feel like cats kill everything.
When I first moved to America, that was one of the weirdest things. Was when I went into a bodega, which for non-American listeners is like a corner store. I went in and there was a cat just sitting in the middle of the floor. Yeah. The guy next to me in line, I was like, "Oh, sir, is that your cat?" Because he was about to leave, and he was like, "No, what do you mean?" And it's just a cat that lives in the corner store. Yeah. Every bodega has it, and it's just to catch rodents. But there's a cat; it would just be lounging on a pile of drinks or whatever.
Cats kill like 23 billion birds in America a year or something. Sadly, we can't talk about birds being killed by cats in America as a full segment, but
and vending machines kill 9 people.
They're single-handedly driving a lot of.
Yeah, but those ones are okay.
Yeah, they're not proud.
Darwin Award candidates.
Yeah.
But wait, so Sydney has a rat problem. I didn't know that Sydney had a lot of rats, but maybe every big city has.
I think
rats.
a lot of big cities have rat problems.
Yeah.
And the rats are being forced into the suburban areas now too.
What, like at gunpoint?
Yes.
Are they doing anything in Sydney? Or is it just let it happen until they start going after humans? You just let them.
Well, what could you do? How do you stop a rat plague?
There's this thing called rat poison, rat traps. Just declare it rat season. Everyone goes out with their rifles, BB guns. I don't know.
There are no.
They do that in Florida with the Burmese pythons that are now an invasive species. They have snake wrangling tournaments every year.
Well, that's something we need to learn more about.
They go down there and have contests to see how many pythons they can get rid of. Maybe we need that with rats. We need armed vigilantes roaming the streets. It's an intense moment in time, guys. I think,
I don't know why, but I feel like I'd be more fearful of Australian rats than rats from another country, because I'm sure they've been.
Rats are better than our rats.
I do, yeah.
Oh,
mate,
right.
If you've got to survive the 20th deadliest snakes in the world, that's a tough rat.
That's a tough rat. I think that's what we need instead of putting all these sports stars at harm's risk. We need to have rat fights.
Cockfighting, but with rats.
But with rats. Yeah, rather than risking the NBA players' lives. USA rat versus Australia rat would get a lot of pay-per-views.
Uncommonwealth.
Let's do a segment that I like to call 5 Things You Probably Didn't Know About Canada, True or False. I'll leave it up to you whether you want to comment on each one or wait till the end. Notice it's only 5 this time because 10 proved an insurmountable number.
We just can't be trusted.
So we're going to go with 5 this time. And you have to tell me if each one is true or false. Okay, the first one. Canada's literacy rate is over 99%.
No
No
way.
way. No one's literacy. No
No.
country's literacy rate's
Yeah.
that high.
I know at least 2 Canadians, and they both have Puerto Rican.
And since there's only 100, it can't be more than 98. That is, in fact, true. You're all wrong.
What?
Yeah, very high
Go
literacy.
Canada.
Wow, go
But
Canada.
you got to read when you got to stay indoors most of the year, I guess, maybe. You read and drink maple syrup. Okay, second one. Canada is the largest exporter of blueberries in the world.
No way.
Whoa.
No way. Blueberries come from California. I buy lots of blueberries, and there's never any from Canada. You can't grow blueberries. No. There's
Okay.
some blueberries there's blackberries in Saskatchewan and stuff. I don't think, no.
Does anyone want to take the other side of that? That was very.
Catherine seems very confident in this, and
Yeah,
I don't have strong blueberry opinions, so
Have we
I
not
know
learned
she's-
that when Catherine is confident, I feel like
That's-
you need.
that's
I feel like you need to take the other side.
I remember the old blueberry heist of the Nixon administration.
That's true. Canada is the largest
Whoa.
blueberry exporter in
Where
the
do
world.
they grow them?
You guys are 0 for 2.
Yeah.
Ontario grows a lot of blueberries. A lot of
What?
raspberries as well.
How can
kidding.
we with the climate? That doesn't make any sense to me.
The growing season for blueberries and for berries is not as
Well,
Remember that guy that went up to like Alaska to live on his own and died because he ate all the poison? Berries in
yeah.
Alaska.
Oh, right.
Berry. Berries grow farther north. Okay. Third one. Canada has more lakes than all other countries in the world combined.
Oh, I'm
Ooh,
going
that's a-
yes.
that's a
True.
good fact,
I'm going
Adam.
true.
That sounds very believable.
False.
And it's true.
God damn it.
It's over 3, but I
Is
No, but-
Land O'Lakes butter Canadian?
think it's like Florida or something.
Oh,
Or
really?
Minnesota.
Is
I
Lake
don't know.
Michigan the biggest is that the biggest lake in the world?
I think so. Or is
Well,
it Lake Superior?
I don't know. Remember, I'd have to look which one is bigger. But the Great Lakes are certainly like they're amongst the largest freshwater lakes in the world for
But
sure.
What's the
This
difference
doesn't-
between a lake and a pond? Is it just the size?
I feel like that's your segment that you're trying to impose.
I'm just doing some focus group testing right now.
It's actually about algae content. If you have over 25% algae, it's considered a
You're
pond.
definitely making it up.
All right, I'm going to the next one because I don't know the answer. Well,
Lake Michigan. It's Lake
Balloons
Michigan.
don't live in
Okay.
ponds.
the fourth thing you probably didn't know about Canada, true or false? Kim Jong-un has said that after Pyongyang and LA, Toronto is his favorite city.
True.
Oh, is he a big Raptors fan?
I don't know.
Where was Rodman from? I feel like that's going to be his.
Rodman's
Third
not
favorite.
Canadian, is he?
Is he from Detroit, Rodman? I know he played like for the Bulls, but was he?
He,
did
play,
come
he played for
from-
the Pistons too when he was.
Maybe
young.
that's why I'm thinking of Detroit.
I'm going to say true only because I'm sensing a trend of all true, and Adam's going to throw in a curveball at the last one to try and
I
trick
think
us.
so too. Because
So I say true.
False.
Damn it.
False. Made up.
What was
you guys,
the tr-
you guys are
oh.
having a rough go of it today. I
So
love
we're
it.
never gonna find out what it was.
What was?
His third favorite city.
I don't know. Yeah, we don't know. We'll have to ask him.
Things
It's just
up.
Pyongyang
Things
again.
up.
There's only one more. There's only one more. 5 things you probably didn't know about Canada. This is the 5th one. True or false? Drake is the only Canadian considered above the law.
False.
I don't get it.
That's
Is
hilarious.
that a song of his?
Do you not understand the expression above the law? You're a lawyer, right?
Right, but what?
He's saying that Drake
I'm
is
missing
so
this.
Drake,
Drake-
is like
Drake is
Canadian.
isn't that a
He-
type
Oh,
of
he's
duck?
only. You're saying he's the only cool Canadian? What about Celine Dion? That's definitely not true.
That's interesting
I thought-
interpretation.
Actually, Bieber has proven he's somewhat above the law. He's done some sketchy things, and nothing really happened to him.
He's been arrested a number of times.
And
Oh,
Avril
you're-
Lavigne's clone
Right.
is
Yeah.
or whatever, like fake Avril Lavigne or whatever that.
Yeah.
I'll wrap up this segment by saying awful performance.
Are
You'll have
we
to try
0
to-
from 5?
You'll have to try to redeem yourself in the future.
Especially by the Canadian, the only other Canadian on this podcast.
Well,
I'm
we,
so
we made the mistake of trusting Catherine, and
Just to be clear,
Catherine,
the only Canadian above the law is Richard Nixon.
The podcast.
This is potentially a new segment that I want to do, and it's going to be called "What's New with Jimmy's Dad." Because I just want to, like, I'm sure you guys have probably had similar experiences that living in a different country from your family. Whenever I FaceTime Dad to catch up, there's always something weird that's new in his life or that he's been up to, and I need people to share it with. Like, I think everyone's dad has their own dad idiosyncrasies, things that, you know, growing up people are embarrassed about, but dads become proud of their quirks. So I need to set the scene a bit because obviously you guys know that I'm a big animal fan. I don't know whether it's nature or nurture, but I definitely get it from my dad. So I've got to give you some background. As one example, growing up, my dad had a pet snake, amongst other things. And my grandmother, there's a story she loves telling about. She overheard dad one time saying like, "Oh, there you are." And when she asked him, she was like, "What the hell are you talking about, Dad?" It's like, "Oh, nothing." So,
what kind of a snake did he have?
It was a red-bellied black snake.
Whoa. Is that a poisonous one?
Venomous.
That's what I meant. Venomous?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's so scary.
Another example, like growing up when I was a kid, so whenever we'd find like a spider in our house, like Mum would want to kill it, but Dad would capture it in a jar and he'd go and like release it somewhere in the wilderness. So he'd never kill an animal. So my dad now lives on a property in a sort of rural-ish area of Australia. So he often has wildlife just turning up on his like on his property. So like one time when I was staying there, he was like, "Oh yeah, you probably shouldn't stay in the guest room because this morning I found a python in the guest room." And I was like, "Okay, well."
Oh my God.
Maybe I'll just roll out a sleeping bag on the living room floor. One of my favorites is when he's got acreage and he has a ride-on lawnmower, and when it broke, he had to go and buy a new ride-on lawnmower. He called me up and I said, "Did you get a new lawnmower?" He said, "No. Instead, I bought 3 goats." I was like, okay. So now Dad just has a bunch of goats.
So the goats eat the lawn. So it's actually like it's a substitute. It's not just
right.
I think that in a lot of small towns in Italy and in Europe, they bring the goats into the town and the sheep to trim the lawns, right? Because they don't have sort of funding for people to do it, so they have the local farmer bring his goats in.
Cool. But you've got to be careful and fence him off because otherwise his garden and everything will go.
Oh, you got to control where they are.
Yeah.
Sure.
Aren't there things that can kill goats in Australia just roaming?
Oh yeah, Dad's always capturing snakes on his property, and so the most recent one when I was FaceTiming him recently, there's a pond on Dad's property. There's some ducks that live in the pond, and one of the ducks laid a bunch of eggs or whatever. And there's a fox that's been roaming around. And during the night, when the ducks sleep on the lake, obviously the fox can't get it. But this one duck that was sitting on the nest, the fox obviously got to it. So Dad found a bunch of these eggs in a nest. He wasn't expecting them to hatch or anything. He was going to cook them for breakfast, but they all started hatching. So Dad had like 15 ducklings that he's been raising. He's eventually taken them out to the pond, so they're living with the other ducks.
But do they think he's their mother? Like, they do.
They think he's their mother, but he released them. Now, I didn't realize this about ducks, but I guess that's where the term pecking order comes from. Male ducks are wildly violent. They kill all the other male ducks. So the existing Drake has started killing all these ducks that Dad's been raising. So there was like one left that he kind of rescued from being bullied, and Dad now has a duck living in his house with his dogs. He'll send me a photo of his like dogs sitting in front of the fireplace with just this giant duck sitting there because it's a male duck. It's massive. So I said, "What's new, Dad?" When I most recently called him, he's like, "Oh, I got a duck living in my living in the living room now." I'm like, "Okay, yep. Pretty standard."
I just think it's so cute how Jimmy thinks that he's not going to end up like this.
It sounds
It's like it just sounds like you, just like not in Manhattan, you know. If you had your way, as if you wouldn't have ducks and
That's
goats.
totally true.
The duck just walked right behind you in the background, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're like, okay, Jimmy, that's your dad.
Uncommon wealth. Sub-prime ministers are less than good. Not in their prime, they blew it. Sub-prime ministers are less than good. It's time for sub-prime ministers.
I got 3 quotes for you today. I'm going to read the quote, then I'm going to narrow down the scope so you're not just guessing for any prime minister of all time. I'm going to ask you who said these quotes, okay? I might do the accents.
Oh, please do.
We'll see. It might give it away. I don't know. And it also may or may not be at all accurate.
Well, I feel like your attempt at the accents will distract us. So that's a good feeling.
Quote 1. I don't know. Proof is a proof. What kind of proof? It's a proof. A proof is a proof. And when you have a good proof, it's because it's a proven.
I'm going to say from the hand gestures, are you going for Italian?
It's got to be Berlusconi.
It
Sounded French.
so Italian, but I meant it to sound French.
Oh, come on. Come on.
Wait.
Your Italian impression.
I don't know. Who says they prove? Anyway, which Canadian prime minister said this?
Which what?
Which Canadian prime minister said this?
Pierre Trudeau.
Jean Chrétien. He has this crazy, I don't know if you guys have heard, I'm going to send Adam the clip to hear him say this quote, and then next to me saying it. But this was him saying, it's a ridiculous quote. This was him discussing the standard of proof of the threat posed by Saddam Hussein to justify the 2002 invasion of Iraq. And he's like, a proof is a proof. Except that sounds Italian.
Can you imagine that once Catherine sends the clip, if we listen to him side by side, we're all like, holy shit, Catherine actually nailed it.
Nailed it.
That's exactly what he sounds like.
Proof is a proof. What kind of a proof? It's a proof. A proof is a proof. And when you have a good proof, it's because it's proven.
Okay. Quote 2. I'm like a good wine. I only get better with the age, and now I am a perfect.
Brian Mulroney.
Which European prime minister said this?
Which was?
Is that
Which
Italian?
European prime minister said this? That was Italian.
Okay.
Which Scorpion prime minister?
Which European
European
prime minister said this? I'm too excited. Pierce, you guessed it for the first one, I think.
Silvio Berlusconi.
Yeah, he's 83, and he's like, I'm like a good wine. It's like the most Italian quote ever.
Well, I thought you were doing a French impression. So,
I thought it was limited to the Commonwealth. That's what confused me on that one.
Prime Minister. It's the
yes.
quote 3. This has been great.
I really hope this is an Australian accent. I want to hear it.
That's a tough one.
She's got dyed blonde hair and pouty lips and a steely blue stare like a sadistic nurse in a mental hospital. Which British prime minister said this? Do you want to hear it again?
Yes.
Please.
oh, yes.
It's talking about Hillary Clinton. That's a key part.
Oh, okay.
She's got dyed blonde hair and pouty lips and a steely blue stare like a sadistic nurse in a mental hospital.
That's pretty spot on.
David Beckham.
And someone making fun of
It's got to be Boris Johnson.
Yeah, it's Boris
Yeah, that
Johnson.
makes sense.
Got it.
Oh, Joe.
Guys, I feel like other than the French one, I practiced that.
great.
I think we should do a new segment, Catherine's accents.
Oh, yes. It's me, Boris Johnson. Hey.
Catherine as Jean Chrétien for the entire episode.
Proof is a proof. What kind of a proof? It's a proof. A proof is a proof. And when you have a good proof, it's because it's proven.
Like the Empire, we're almost done. We hope that you've had lots of fun. Was it relevant? Probably not. But thanks for giving this part a shot. Stay tuned for the end of Uncommon Wealth, the podcast. Stay tuned for Uncommon Takes.
I vote Catherine as MVP
Yeah.
I'm going to cry.
for the commitment to those accents.
Yeah.
I was so scared to do them.
But you committed.
So brave.
We could just call this episode Catherine Commits.
Ah.
The podcast.
He sent me a photo of a bat hanging from the ceiling fan in his bedroom, and I was like, "Holy shit! Like, what are you going to do about it?" And he was like, "Go to bed." What do you mean? It's a bedroom. Like, what do you do? So there was just a bat that's just hanging out in his room.
Did he put the fan on the lowest setting? That would be pretty fun.
Just
Isn't bat poop very valuable? Guano?
guano. Yeah, I learned that from the second Ace Ventura movie.
I think I did too.
Uncommon Takes.
Pierce and Jimmy, have you ever heard Jean Chrétien speak?
I
No.
don't think so.
He's a French man, and he has this like drooping lip.
French-Canadian.
Yeah, French Canadian, and so it's so Quebecois, and he just has
So
this like
he has a very distinctive.
accent. It never changed. He never like evolved into.
Are you trying to say he never learned English properly? Is that what you're trying to say?
One of the recent Australian prime ministers, she had a very Bogan accent. Bogan's like an Australian redneck, I suppose, but so like a very thick Bogan Australian accent. And then it was very obvious that pretty soon after she was elected, she started getting some heavy language and accent training, and she started pronouncing a whole bunch of words like real posh. Like she started coming out and saying negotiation, and it was just like so off compared to how she used to say it.
Sounds like when Madonna became British.
Yeah, right.
It's like, you're from Michigan.
The podcast.